Pulitzer Prize-winning author and presidential historian Doris Kearns Goodwin.
You know, Doris, I remember after January the 6th, Anne Applebaum writing a column in The Atlantic saying, we've got to figure out how to deal with Trump supporters, 77 million people. We've got to figure out how to bring them back into the mainstream of American political thought. It was sort of, like Abraham Lincoln in his second inaugural, talking about with malice toward none after the South had been responsible for the killing of about 650,000 Americans. And Anne got absolutely eviscerated by people talking about how naive she was, how she was, we can never forgive, we can never forget, we can never deal with these people again. It's a good thing Joe Biden agreed more with Anne Applebaum than her critics, because a hell of a lot has been done just because Joe Biden believed, in the good heart of a lot of Americans.
And you know, Joe, what you and Willie have both said is you've got to believe that it's possible to make it possible. And maybe the fact that he was there so many years ago when it did work allows you to believe it can work again. So many of the people in Congress in the recent years have not seen it work. They've just seen the broken Congress, so they don't believe it. But it's a real different idea for what a deal means. I mean, think about what Trump says. He says all these people who say making a deal when both sides feel good, that's a bunch of crap, he said. What really matters is winning. And I always win. What you've seen in this last week is a deal that was made that satisfies both sides giving credit. One of the things old Harry Truman said is amazing what you can accomplish as long as you don't care who gets the credit. This is what worked during Reagan and Tip O'Neill. It's what worked during during Dirksen and LBJ. It's what works during World War II, when you had a mission that people from all sides could work together, and then all those congressmen and senators had been in the war, in World War II and Korean War, and they were in there in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. Thank God we've got somebody who's been around for a while, who knows that it can work and has brought it back again on both sides of the aisle. I think this is a moment to celebrate.
Well, and Mike, I was there when you had Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich going at each other. Two guys that just had absolutely no use for each other in many ways. There's, government shutdowns, impeachments. And yet you talk to both of those men and they will tell you, even during impeachment, they were talking about concerns about Saddam Hussein and Iraq. Even during government shutdowns, John Kasich was patiently going over to the White House, sitting with Leon Panetta. There was the white hot noise down here, and then there was the signal that they stayed focused on, and that was getting things done. And I'm reminded of what Tip O'Neill's son told Chris Matthews about his relationship with Ronald Reagan. He said, the only thing my dad hated more than Ronald Reagan's ideology was getting nothing done for the American people. So they learned how to work together, learned how to be friends, learned how to put America first.
Well, Joe, part of the reason, part of the answer as to what happened, the successful event that concluded last night in the Senate, is Joe Biden's roots, and it's Joe Biden's human nature. The roots of Joe Biden are really in the United States Senate. And I think if you think about it and look back at it and talk to him about it, he will tell you that after he lost his wife and daughter, the Senate gave him purpose. It gave him a reason to live. And two guys in the United States Senate helped save his life in that sense, Mike Mansfield and Ted Kennedy. Both of them convinced Joe Biden then not to leave the Senate in grief, to stay and work. And so he stayed and he worked. And all these years later, he gets Kevin McCarthy in front of him, the two of them. Both men severely underestimated all their political lives, both the president and the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. And guess what? Within human nature, within the realm of human nature, each of those guys finds something in the other. They find something in the other that they like. And that begins a discussion, a long-term discussion that results in what happened last night in the passage of this bill that saved the American economy in the United States Senate. That's Joe Biden's life. We'll see about Kevin McCarthy. We'll see if he can continue with that sort of convivial, let's get along aspect. Let's see what we can get done for the American people, as you just said. But the roots of it are in Joe Biden's dedication to the United States Senate and dedication to getting something done.
And so while that all is true, we were talking earlier about the turd sandwich. I don't want to be the one in the punch bowl.
Congress.
But I have a question.
Royce.
I have a question.
Yes.
Well, this is great. Getting things done. Definitely Joe Biden and Kevin McCarthy, right. As Joe Biden will even say, they work together. But didn't they have to in this case? Didn't this...
No.
No. Do either of them want to be responsible for the country failing on the debt ceiling? I mean, it seems to me that if they were going to come together on something, it would be something like this with a deadline where each side doesn't. So my question is everything that we're talking about transferable to other things like legislation on guns or women's health? Because I think there's a lot of people out there going, that's great, we'll celebrate, but this was money that was already spent. Of course we had to pay our debts, but what about me? What about guns? What about women's health? What about the fact that the two sides can't seem to agree on what the country, polls show, really want to see some movement on?
Well, again, there's not going to be a complete disconnect from human nature. Also, ideological beliefs that people have held firmly most of their lives. But again, you look back over the past year or two, what great legislators do is they look for deals. They say, okay, we disagree on these 99 things. What's one thing that we can agree on?
Okay.
And they pass infrastructure legislation. Then they say, okay, well, we disagree on these 99 things. And we really disagree on guns. Let's come together and figure out how we can pass gun safety legislation that even the most aggressive supporters of gun safety legislation will say, you know what, is a good step forward. And that's how you do it constantly. You build. And so, yeah, we could sit and focus, Willie, on legislators could sit and focus on all the things they disagree on, or they could say, you know what, vets really need help with burn pits. You know what? China is eating our lunch when it comes to chips, to semiconductor chips. You know what? We've got to get more competitive in this realm with China. And they come together and they pass bipartisan legislation. There's a lot of things that both sides are going to be unhappy about, but that is the nature of it. It's Madisonian democracy. It's divided government. It is meant to frustrate the extremes. It is meant to frustrate would-be tyrants. And it's been working now for over, 230 years.